Okay, hello YouTube. My name is Douglas Simpson. I'm going to be your host for the day, and I'm going to be introducing you today to a series I'm starting known as A Solo Dev and His RPG. This is, unsurprisingly, the story of the RPG I'm currently working on as an independent games developer, and I'm hoping over time to cover all the various aspects of game design I have to consider for this release and will have to in future. Along with this, I'll also be using it as an opportunity to get feedback before release. If any of you people out there come up with any good ideas or suggestions in the comments, I'm more than happy to consider implementing them for the finished game, so you too can use this to have a bit of an impact on it, perhaps. Normally these videos would also act as a bit of a devlog as well, going over what I've done each week and the progress made. However, that's a bit different today, given this is only the first log. So instead, I'm going to just be going a bit of a general overview and a bit of a thing on the characters. So enjoy the first video on the creation of this RPG, Baron Khalil, the 5-Island Quest. So, for a little backstory on myself, just quickly, so you know who's talking to you. I am an independent game developer. It's just me here. My company is BWI Games. I've done 4 years at uni, including a year doing a master's on games design, which I did pass. And I've racked up probably about 2-ish years of full-time games development across various projects. One of which I've linked in the description for this video, I've actually already released on Steam. That game is Impact Orbital Rescue Crew. It's basically about being the equivalent of the fire service for space debris. However, it's an RPG that I wanted to work on next, so I think it's time I actually start properly talking about it. For the first week, I figured I'd start with the basics. What's the idea for this game? Well, it's going to be a globe-trotting adventure in a fantasy planet, in which a group of, at the moment, 6 adventurers, could be subject to change, there might be more in future, travel around the 4 islands of this world that I've got on screen. This is the world map, known as Baron Khalil, in order to gain support from the 4 islands of Sel Quinta, Sel Ona, Sel Mounta and Sel Khan, to form an alliance against the mysterious 5th nation of Sel Tor, who appear to be essentially developing an invasion force that they intend to unleash on the rest of the world. Sel Quinta, where the party starts, I'll zoom in on it, is very much a multi-biome island centered around the volcano at its center. With 5 sub-capitals. Goes from sort of tropical jungle to plains to deserts and frozen areas. It's quite varying. Then next up is the perpetual desert of Sel Ona, bathed in perpetual daylight and with sun so hot in some places, if I can get the camera to agree with me, such as on the south coast where the sun is so hot it can melt the sand into glass. North of that is the island of Sel Mounta, a large island with both large areas of mountains, volcanic regions, a snowy north and a swampy forest to the west. Yes, I believe that is west, I just had a bit of a moment there. Geography is not my strongest suit. And lastly, the island of Sel Cairn, a mysterious island of undead. There's a curse on the island where anyone who falls is resurrected about a day later. Although once they're resurrected they can't leave and there can be some nasty consequences, so that will be something to look forward to hearing a little bit more about. Meanwhile, Sel Tor is a very much isolationist nation. Very little is known about it. They don't let people in and they don't ever trade or encounter the rest of the world. It's only through remote scouting that the invasion that they are preparing has been discovered at all, so that'll be something to discover a bit more about as time goes on. So, the idea for this RPG actually originally stemmed from a Dungeons & Dragons campaign that I've been running for 2 parties of about 6 members each over the course of about a year and a quarter at this point, so I actually already have a good deal of material to use for various areas, enemies and plot development. It's simply a matter of converting them into the engine and also accounting for the plot, at least, for the fact that it's very much going to be more fixed rather than a super open-ended one like D&D would be. Essentially, someone suggested for my second game that I make use of all the work I've done for it, and as an independent developer, obviously I have to do it nearly all myself. It takes a lot of time and energy and everything. So I figured, yeah, making use of the material I've already got makes perfect sense. However, of course, I should note that it will not be using any uniquely D&D assets or like IP-owned creations. Obviously, at the time of writing, Dungeons & Dragons belongs to Wizards of the Coast. Don't want to get in any trouble copyright with them. You know, I love your game, but I don't want any copyright issues, so this is very much going to be its own thing. The multi-island structure, which we'll go back to quickly, also kind of ties in well with how I intend to try and release the game, at least at the moment. The idea is essentially to release the game with the first island, so Quinta, fully finished, all in, finalised, all the gameplay there, and then to release the islands for free as development goes on as essentially major updates. So I'm not entirely sure what the order would be yet. I believe my plan was to go Cell Cairn, Cell Owner, and then Cell Mounter, but that could change in future. However, if I, during development... Oh, and finishing with Cell Tour, of course. But rather, if I, during development, decide that one island doesn't feel like enough gameplay to be worth it for you all out there, I'm fully willing to perhaps include maybe 2 islands in the initial version, or if development goes much faster, maybe more than that. It depends on how it all goes. A little like the episodic games that some companies such as Telltale have gone for in the past. Though with varying effects, it is a proven sort of method for releasing games, and that's what I'm intending to do. Now, RPGs, of course, need a fairly good cast. The characters are important. So I figure I'll do a little bit of an introduction to the 6 adventurers that you'll be in charge of over the course of the game. So, first of the party is Samson, the party's second in command. He's a bit of a down on his luck sort, adventurer, having come out of a bad run of luck attempting, well again, adventuring on his own. Joining up with the party mostly for the pay, but also for the backup and companionship he'd receive as part of a full party. Class-wise, he's an all-rounder, the idea in combat being that he can do a bit of everything. He's got a reasonable selection of mostly single-target magic, even in some elements that other party members don't really have much of, like wind spells, and a handful of, again, mostly single-target melee techniques that inflict various status effects on the foe. Stats-wise, he's, again, an all-rounder. No glaring weaknesses, but no massive strengths either, and he can equip sort of medium-level gear and a good selection of weapons. All round, he seems like he'd be a very competent adventurer, but he might have some self-confidence issues to get over, and indeed, one of his biggest flaws might just be underestimating what he's actually capable of. And I've got a few faces there we can show off. However, you are not the next party member, that is you. Secondly, is the party's thief, Caitlin. Or Caitlin? Caitlin? Caitlin, that was it. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a memory moment apparently. She's very much a fan of treasure and a bit of a kleptomaniac, but ultimately well-meaning. In and out of combat, her skills allow her to steal items and gold from foes to bankroll the party and obtain certain weapons and armours and accessories and things that foes might not even drop normally. And yes, I did say out of combat as well, because while you're in towns with certain interactions, she's also able to steal items and gold. Stats-wise, she's a little bit fragile. Not the best offense at all, but she's quick and by far the luckiest party member, which means she should have more dodges, critical hits, all that sort of thing. Should be a good asset to the team if her greed doesn't get in the way of her first. Next up is you. Next up is Lysandroth, the monk. He's a martial artist, very much proud of his strength and the work he's put in, although one of the less talkative party members. He's dedicated to the god of, among other things, combat, Delisle. And in a fight, he's unsurprisingly one of the party's big hitters. He's by far the fastest party member, with a strong offense and a good constitution. He's, can take a good hit. He uses combination attacks that either flow into other moves, like as follow-ups essentially, alongside key-based attacks that will ignore most normal defences against, attacks. His goal, to become the strongest in the world, might be within his reach, but his perpetual bad luck might get the best of him first. Fourth is you. Fourth is on to the party's big hitter, Vagel. Vagel is a destruction mage focused on offensive spellcasting, though perhaps a little worryingly eager to burn her foes away to nothing, and not the easiest to get along with for any of the other party members really. She brings a massive amount of offense to the party. Stats-wise, she is very much a glass cannon, very fragile but able to deal out a lot of damage across a good range of elements, sometimes even across multiple targets at once, and can even use her techniques to channel mana and replenish her own supplies without potions or resting. But what exactly is that mask that she's hiding behind? Well, hiding really. And why did she join the team if she doesn't get along with them very well? Fifth, although ironically enough they're in completely the wrong order here, is the party's oddball, Raylia. She's a restoration mage, a healer, which is a bit of an odd choice of profession for a demon normally. Charming and easygoing, her personality and, well, natural charm makes her very easy to get along with for most of the party. Stats-wise, her class and herself are focused on healing, although she's noticeably less fragile than Vagal. Indeed, her demonic heritage makes her outright immune to fire right off the bat, and healing magic actually passively heals her a little bit each time. And although her damage output is limited on its own, she can turn up the demonic charm to apply debuffs to single or even large groups of enemies. Still, at the end of the day, she is a demon. Has she truly severed all the ties, and what is it she's looking for in this quest? Lastly, again in the wrong order, is the party's warrior, Hetty, the one who started this whole quest. Intelligent, strong, caring, maybe a little easily flustered as well. Hetty's the one in charge of leading the party on their trip across the 5 Isles and the one that recruited them all in the first place. One of 5 sisters, she's well used to managing a group, although this particular team might have some things in store she's not ready for. Stats-wise, she's the party's tank, although also quite a capable fighter, almost on par with Lysandroth. While very much the slowest party member, she can soak up some pretty big physical hits, and her own skills are focused around either bringing quite big hits to single targets with good elemental coverage, or bolstering her teammates to fight even harder. But is the mission she's on all she thinks it is, and what actually is she really? So, hopefully with this little showing of the game, I've gotten at least some of your interest. So far I've completed a good 3 major areas, the initial mansion and the various areas around there, the first major city and its interior, and the hillside with the mines very close to completion as well. So progress is pretty good so far, but I'll be showing off the environments properly later on beyond the little glimpses I've done so far. Assuming nothing gets in the way of producing these videos, there should be a new one each Friday, so look forward to next week where I'll be going over the game's slightly unusual art style, you've probably noticed it already, and a choice of engine for the game, which is of course RPG Maker, VXA specifically. On Tuesday, maybe Monday, it's a little up in the air at the moment, I also intend to release my first review on a game that is not my own, that one being From the Depths, assuming all goes well with recording, a game that is very close to my own heart actually. And if you don't want to wait for this game to be complete, as I said earlier, my other game, IOC, is already out on Steam. Link in the description, trailers on this channel, go check it out, you'll probably like it. And if you've got any suggestions for this game, throw them in the comments, I'll definitely 100% be reading them. And I'll, maybe even be implementing some of the features you come up with if it's good. Also, throw a like way down there. You know what YouTube's like, the algorithm, it shows no mercy to people that don't get engaged with. And obviously if you want to see the next part, subscribe, click the bell to get notified when the next part comes out, which should be next Friday. I've been Douglas Simpson of BWI Games, and I'll talk to you again very soon.